The federal government has been under sustained pressure over its handling of a High Court decision that ended indefinite immigration detention in Australia. With a second major legal case underway, there are still limited solutions for a complex problem. David Spears explains.
Legally uncertain and politically fraught, the Home Affairs Minister says the High Court, through a series of decisions last year, has drawn new boundaries around immigration detention. It's created uncertainty around who can be held, on what grounds, and for how long. Clarity will only come through further test cases before the High Court, but in the meantime, the opposition is cutting the government no slack.
Our plan to start with would be to sack the minister.
In November, the High Court overturned its own precedent in a landmark decision relating to a stateless Rohingya refugee known as NZYQ. It found the government could not continue holding someone with no real prospect of removal in the reasonably foreseeable future. NZYQ, a convicted child sex offender, was released, along with nearly 150 others deemed to be in a similar legal situation. But that's not the end of the matter. What exactly did the High Court mean by no real prospect of removal? And just how long is the reasonably foreseeable future? This is where the uncertainty lies. A case due to be heard by the High Court next month could provide some clarity. It involves an Iranian man known as ASF-17, who arrived in Australia by boat and has been held in immigration detention for more than a decade. He says he fears for his life if returned to Iran because he's bisexual, a Christian and a Kurd. But the main sticking point is his refusal to cooperate with authorities seeking to deport him.
The government believes that these individuals, those who are not cooperating with their removal, should be removed from Australia as a priority, and while they are not, they should remain in immigration detention.
In November, the federal court agreed with the government. It found the ongoing detention of ASF-17 was lawful. The High Court challenge to that ruling will have significant ramifications. It could trigger the release of more asylum seekers who refuse to cooperate with authorities. Just how many has been the subject of speculation. Senior government sources insist they won't know precisely until the High Court makes a clear decision. The government is desperate to avoid a further mass release of detainees. It's hired dozens more lawyers and is trying to show it's on the front foot. But it's at the mercy of the High Court, and even the opposition is unable to say what more it could do beyond greater transparency.
I would look at all the information. I would make sure that we're being upfront with the Australian people as the size of the challenge that is confronting the government, and then work through it with my number one priority in place, keeping the Australian community in place.
As for those released last year, the government is yet to lodge an application for any to be locked back up again under the new preventative detention regime put in place after the NZYQ decision. It's wading through some 35,000 documents to build a watertight first case against the highest risk offender. The opposition is critical of how long it's taking and says it's ready to support any changes that would speed up the process.
Introduce amendments to lower the bar to make it easier to apply. I'm very confident that we would assist with swift passage so that these laws can actually be used.
The problem is lowering the bar to make it easier for the government to lock people up might increase the likelihood the preventative detention regime is also found to be unconstitutional. The mandatory ankle bracelets imposed on those released have also been the subject of multiple challenges. The legal landmines are everywhere. As for the politics, the opposition's accusing the government of losing control. The government says the opposition is ignoring the new landscape and won't take up its offer of a briefing. Neither side has an easy, bulletproof solution to head off a ruling that could see more detainees released. No one can out-legislate the High Court.